Hi friends! So I'm running a little bit behind for Clover Buds today because I was having some technical difficulties, but hopefully I have everything back up and running and I'm ready to go. So hopefully everybody has been enjoying their time at home with their families. I know that we have been here. And we are so used to, I don't know about y'all's houses, but at our house, we are so used to running around and getting out of the house and running our errands and visiting with our friends. And that's something that we can't really do anymore. So we kind of are, at our house, embracing this new pioneer kind of lifestyle. So I wanted to read with you today a book called A Little House Picture Book Treasury. Now, some of your parents might recognize the name Laura Ingalls Wilder. Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote some books called The Little House on the Prairie. And later that was made into a television show that some of you may have seen. But today we are going to start by reading her first book, and it's called A Little Prairie House. Once upon a time, a little girl named Laura traveled in a covered wagon across the giant prairie. She traveled with her pa, her ma, her big sister Mary, her little sister Carrie, and their good old bulldog Jack. They were searching for the perfect place to build themselves a little house. One day, after the little family had been traveling across the prairie for a long time, Laura and Mary woke up earlier than the sun. They ate their breakfast of cornmeal mush and hurried to help Ma wash the dishes. Pa was loading everything into the wagon. There's Mary and Jack.
What?
When the sun rose, they were driving across the prairie. There was no road to drive on, so Pet and Patty, the two gentle Mustangs, waded through the grass. Later that morning, Pa said, "Whoa!" The wagon stopped. "Here we are," he said. "Right here, we'll build our house." Laura and Mary jumped to the ground. All around them, there was nothing but prairie. So there was no place to go, right?
Just running around.
Yeah, they could only run around.
No place to live.
That's right, they had to build it. Right away, Pa and Ma began to unload the wagon. They took everything out and piled it on the ground while Laura and Mary and Jack watched. Then Pa drove the wagon down into the prairie out of sight to get a load of logs from the creek bottom.
What's that thing's on their head?
My little girl Addie asked what these little girls are wearing on their heads, and they're wearing bonnets. If you can see really closely, they have bonnets on their heads, and that helped to keep the sun off their face so that they wouldn't get sunburned. Laura was a little frightened to be left on the prairie without the wagon. She wanted to hide in the tall grass like a prairie chicken, but instead she helped Ma while Mary sat in the grass and minded baby Carrie. Soon, Pa came back with a load of logs. For days and days, Pa kept hauling logs. He made 2 piles of them, one for the house and one for the stable. When he had enough logs, it was time to build. Pa began the house first. So a few things we wanted to talk about. You can see their logs over here on the side, and you can see that Pa is bringing the logs in the wagon. And right here, you can see that they have like a little kettle.
It's on Frozen too.
Yeah, there's a little kettle, and they have got they've got it over a fire. That's how they're cooking their meals. Because they don't have a kitchen to cook in, right?
Nope. Yeah.
All by himself, Pa built the walls of the house, 3 logs high, and then Ma helped him. Log by log, Pa and Ma built the walls higher and higher and higher. Soon, Laura couldn't climb over them anymore. So I don't know about the rest of my clover buds, but I know that Addie and Annabelle, they love to climb on things like trees, and closets and tables and things that they are definitely not supposed to climb on. Right?
Like on refrigerators.
Yeah.
And curtains.
Then one day, Pa was off hunting, and he came home whistling merrily. "Good news," he shouted. Pa had met a neighbor on the other side of the creek. His name was Mr. Edwards, and he was going to help Pa finish building the house. Then Pa would help Mr. Edwards build his house. Early the next morning, Mr. Edwards came. He was lean and tall, and he bowed to Ma politely. He told Laura that he was a wildcat from Tennessee, and he could spit farther than Laura had ever imagined anyone could spit. Laura tried and tried, but she could never spit so far or so well as Mr. Edwards could. I wonder what her ma thought about Laura trying to spit like Mr. Edwards.
I can do that outside right away.
Oh, well, let's not try it in here. Mr. Edwards was a fast worker. In one day, he and Pa built the walls of the little house as high as Pa wanted them. They sang while they worked, and their axes made the chips fly. They cut a tall hole in the front for a door and square holes for the windows. Let's keep our feet still. Laura couldn't wait to see the inside of the house, and as soon as the tall hole was cut, she ran inside. Stripes of sunshine came through the cracks of the walls and went all across Laura's hands and arms and feet. See, she's sitting in the house, and there's those rays of sunshine coming across her dress.
That looks like paint. Did she paint it?
She did not paint herself, no.
No.
At the end of the day, Mr. Edwards said he would go home, but Pa and Ma said that he must stay for supper. Ma had made stewed jackrabbit and steaming hot, thick cornbread with molasses. Mr. Edwards said he surely did appreciate that supper when Pa took out his fiddle and began to sing. Would you guys like to eat jackrabbit stew for dinner? I have one little girl that says yes and one little girl that is adamantly saying no. That means she says, no way, Jose. No jackrabbit stew
yummy,
for us.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yucky, yucky, yucky,
Okay.
yucky, stupid, yucky.
Suddenly, Mr. Edwards jumped up and began to dance. He danced like a jumping jack in the moonlight, while Pa's fiddle kept on rollicking and Laura's and Mary's hands were clapping together. Pa played and played, and Mr. Edwards danced and danced.
So beautiful with that house.
It's a pretty house out there on the prairie, isn't it?
But,
Finally, Mr. Edwards said he must go. Play me down the road, he said. So Pa played and Pa and Laura and Mr. Edwards sang with all their might until Laura could not hear Mr. Edwards anymore. Only the wind rustled in the prairie grasses, and the big yellow moon sailed high over the new little house on the prairie.
Wait, the roof isn't over yet.
They're working on it. So that was our first story in the Little House picture book treasury. And there's a lot more in here that we probably will read one day. But, I'm sorry. Like I said, I had technical difficulties, so I'm using my phone today instead of a computer, which is a challenge. But I told your parents at the beginning of the week that we would be making some butter. So one of the things that the pioneers used to have to do is make their own food or grow their own food because there wasn't a grocery store that they could go to, which is kind of like how we are living today. Although we can go to the grocery store, it's really only a good idea to go a few times, right? And only stay as long as you need to. So, what I have here is I have some heavy cream. See? I have some heavy cream, and I have a jar, and I have some salt. Okay? And so, let me see, can I figure out how to flip this around so that you guys can see? Okay. So I have those three things that are the three basic things that I need for making butter at home. Okay, I'm going to open up my jar and I'm going to fill it halfway full with that heavy cream. Okay, about halfway, maybe a little more. And then I'm going to add some salt. Okay. If I want salt, or if I wanted honey butter, I could add some honey right now, or I could add some garlic and herbs. Okay. Would you tighten that lid down for me, Miss Addie Cakes? Oh, twist it. Twist it on. Twist harder. Harder. Okay. You think it's twisted all the way? You want to try? You want to try twisting it? Did you twist it a little more? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start shaking. And we're going to shake. Okay? And you're going to want to make sure that your heavy cream is hitting the top and the bottom of the jar. So you should be able to hear it if I'm really quiet. Do you hear it making those sounds? That is, it's okay that there's a drop. That's all right. So, oh, she tasted it. So, I have been working to try and get my butter made, okay? And this is what your butter will look like when it's done. You're going to have the solid in there, which is the butter, and you're going to have that liquid. Does anybody have a guess what, oh, hang on, Addie, because I already told you what it is. Does anybody have a guess what that liquid in there is? Hang on, I'll let you say it in a minute. If we've been making butter and there's a liquid, what do you think that liquid is? Any guesses? Okay, Addie, tell us, what is it?
Buttermilk.
It's the buttermilk. So there are lots of yummy things that you can do with buttermilk too, okay? So I'm going to grab a glass because I want to save my buttermilk.
And also get me some for my drink.
And buttermilk has an interesting flavor that you wouldn't necessarily want to drink, Addie. You would want to...
I smelled it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit this back here where I can hopefully see, and you guys can see me. Don't move it, okay? All right. I said don't move it. Let's keep our hands down, okay? All right, guys. So I'm going to take my lid off. All right. I'm going to grab a bowl here, and I'm going to pour. Can you come and sit on the other side, please? Can you come sit on the other side so that you're not bumping the phone? This is so much fun for all of us, adjusting to our new normal. This working from home is so much fun. So I want to get as much buttermilk out of there as I can. Okay. Now I have a nice glass of buttermilk that I can make like a pie or some bread with later. Okay. And this took about 15 minutes to get this jar to form that nice solid. Okay, so you might want to start with a smaller jar, parents, if your kids are wanting to do this all by themselves. Back up, please, to get all of my butter out.
Ew. That looks good.
Okay.
That just looks like salt butter.
And there's going to be some buttermilk that comes out too, okay? And that is okay if you didn't get it all out to start with.
That looks like grits. That looks like just like grits.
So I'm going to show you what this looks like now. See? So that's what our buttermilk what our butter looks like now. Now what I'm going to do is I have some, back up please. I have some really cold water here, and I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to kind of put it into a little ball, okay? But I want to use really, really cold water, and I want to pour that cold, cold, cold water over my butter, okay? And I'm going to pick it up and form it into a little ball. And squeeze the rest of that buttermilk and water out, okay? So you can see that some of that is still dripping down my hands. And I'm gonna get all that buttermilk out, okay? Now, I'm gonna dump this water buttermilk mixture. I'm just gonna dump that right there in the sink because I don't wanna add water to my buttermilk that I'm using for other things. And I'm going to rinse this butter one more time with that cold, cold, cold water. And what I'm doing when I add that cold water is I am getting all that buttermilk, rinsing all that buttermilk off so that I am left with no buttermilk.
That looks like just like cookie dough.
Only a nice ball of butter, okay?
It just looks like cookie
There's still a few little droplets of buttermilk coming out, which is okay. Just get out all the buttermilk the best you can. All right.
Keep it in the bowl, please.
And then I'm going
That just
to
looks like cookie dough.
rinse my hand off first and get that butter off.
And that looks just like cookie dough.
And then I'm gonna grab a plate to sit my butter on, okay?
Yeah. Just land it on the floor.
All right, and I'm gonna wash my hands real quick.
We have candy, Mom.
Addie,
Some candy.
stop talking. I need you to walk away, please.
This is what is candy. It is up there.
Okay, let me grab a dish towel.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. And now I have this beautiful little butter. Back up. And we are gonna have a quick snack of our butter, okay? Can you take your chair over there by Sissy now? So I have some bread here. I'm just gonna butter the girls a quick piece of bread so that they can taste our butter. There we go. No, you cannot. There's a piece for you. And a piece for Annabelle.
And it is delicious.
Oh, she says it's delicious. I'm gonna sit Annabelle's over there. And I'm gonna butter me a piece. because I want to taste it too. It's really kind of makes you feel good to get to eat something that you made yourself, right?
It tastes super good.
Delicious. Homemade butter. Okay. The other thing
is we're gonna make
that I want us to get to do
is make a yarn doll.
A doll. Because a lot of pioneer children made their own toys. Okay? So, today I'm going to make a small toy with you. All right? I have here a little yarn doll. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your yarn, okay? And you can use all different kinds of yarn, all different kinds of colors. It doesn't have to be any kind of specific yarn. You just want to make sure that all of your strings are about the same length, okay? So I'm just going to get a few strands of yarn, okay? And they're all about the same length, all right? And then I'm gonna cut that. And then I'm going to cut the ends so that they are all separated and not still attached. Okay. And I'm gonna cut a few little strips. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so I have a few little strings to use to tie my doll with. And the length of those doesn't really matter. All right, so I have my yarn here. Sorry, guys. I have my yarn here. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to take one of my strings here and tie kind of close to the top to make that head of the doll. Okay? Kind of up close. But I want to make sure that they have a decent size head.
That rainbow one is going to be me. That rainbow one is going to be me.
And you can make all kinds of dolls. You can make some with dresses or some with pants, however you want to, okay? And then from her neck, I am going to take a few little pieces here and a few little pieces here and pull them aside. Okay, and I can, just about 3 or 4 is fine. And then
you're gonna braid it.
I'm going to make her waist.
Your waist,
okay,
and the arms are gonna braid.
So now I have.
I wasn't doing it.
And now I have my doll has her head and her waist here, and her legs and her arms. So I'm going to braid her arms. Just kind of braid those in together however you want to do that. And hopefully Mom or Dad can help you with that. Okay.
If you don't know how to braid, which I know how to braid. So you could do it your own self. It's easy for me to braid, but I can't do it on other people's hair.
Yeah. It can be really hard to braid sometimes.
It's easy though.
Okay. So I have braided this one's first little arm.
Here's my braid.
Okay. And then I'm going to tie her hand with another one of my strings.
also need a hand, guys. And don't forget, it doesn't have to be 5 fingers. Sissy does this. No, wait. That's not braiding. That's twisting.
Okay. So I have one arm here, and I'm going to braid her other arm real quick, and she is going to be good to go.
And don't forget to put a ponytail. You put a ponytail on the first one. Mom.
Hang on, please. Hang on, please. I understand. Some days, y'all, you'd have to laugh or you'd cry. This new normal for all of us is interesting. Okay.
I'm falling.
So I'm going to tie her last little hand here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to explain to you our little contest that we're going to have, okay?
A cupcake contest.
So, for my contest, I want to know, I want to see what Pioneer toys or games you can come up with, okay? So, you might want to build some Lincoln logs. Back up.
What are Lincoln logs?
And your parents can help you figure out about Lincoln logs to build a little house. Or you might want to make these dolls. Or you might have another idea entirely. I want to see what game or toy you can make that the pioneers might have made at one time. Okay? And so I want for you to post your picture of either your doll or a game that you have made in the comments on this video, okay? And I will be choosing a random winner to win a prize, okay, of all of the people that participate. So, that contest will end on Monday so that you have the weekend to kind of work on your toy or your game. And I hope to see some of your creativity and see that you have enjoyed embracing this homesteading lifestyle that we are suddenly plunged into. So, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to message us on Facebook. And I will see you guys next week at 1 o'clock for another Clover Buds.